This is Sid Roth saying, I have a vision. Now is the set time to blow the trumpet in Zion.
Blow a trumpet in Zion, sound it on the mountains. Blow a trumpet in Zion, for the day of the Lord is come.
Shalom, Mishpacha. Shalom, family. That's what Mishpacha means, family. We're the Mishpacha with a Jewish heart, made up of Jewish and non-Jewish people that are one new man in Yeshua, getting ready for the greatest explosion this world has ever seen. God wants everyone, everywhere, to hear the good news. He wants everyone, everywhere, to be red hot for the Messiah. I've got Curry Blake in the studio today. Curry Blake supernaturally was given a training manual that John G. Lake used in the first quarter of the 20th century in Spokane, Washington, and had such phenomenal results himself, and everyone he trained had these phenomenal results. For those that are listening for the first time, Curry Blake, tell me a bit about John G. Lake and his methods of training.
Well, Dr. Lake first arrived in Spokane in early 1914. He had just attended the formation of the Assemblies of God in Hot Springs. He decided to go to Spokane, Washington. When he was there, he actually started preaching in a particular church. After about 6 months there, he opened what he called Lake's Divine Healing Institute. In that Healing Institute, because he was having such success at getting people healed, he knew that he could also teach it. He invited some people to come in that needed healing, predominantly at first. They came in, and the people started getting healed while he was teaching in his classes without even having to lay hands on them. Most people, matter of fact, he even put out a $500 bond once, saying that anyone that could attend his classes for 30 days and not receive healing, he would give them $500. Now, technically at this point, we haven't made that same offer, but we're ready to. I mean, we're at that point. But I would even like to go further and say that I would like anyone that wanted to learn this training, that wanted to spend the time, come spend the time with us. Come walk with us. Come see what goes on and be there, participate in it.
Tell me about the training that John G. Lake gave.
Well, he started what they call the healing rooms there at the Rookery building. And what they did was they had rooms set aside where someone would come in for prayer. They would come in, and the people that were actually the training technicians, or the divine healing technicians, a lot of them were people that had been healed. And as you get healed, then you become responsible for ministering healing to others. It's part of to whom much is given, much is required. Well, he would actually have them in the teaching, and he would require that they attend the teaching for 30 days. That 30-day period would be a rotating. Every month, it would start all over again. And he would train all of them, and they sat through it for 30 days and were trained. They were taught. They would ask questions. He would answer their questions. They would bring people in to be prayed for. He would pray for them and minister to them and demonstrate it. Then he would let the people there minister to them.
Now, would the people instantly have the manifestation of healing, or would it take a period of time?
There were a lot that took periods of time. As a matter of fact, there were several instances in the records where he would tell people you have to attend for 30 days to receive healing, to guarantee it. And a lot of people would be gone, and they would be healed on the 29th day. And see, that goes against some of the Word Faith teaching of praying once. Now, I know Wigglesworth said if you pray twice for the same thing, you're praying the second time in disbelief. Well, that's fine if it works, but you pray till you get it. That's the bottom line.
Now, Wigglesworth didn't teach thousands of people to do exactly what he could do. He taught thousands of people, but they couldn't do what he could do.
Right. That's exactly
Could the people do exactly what they were trained by John G. Lake, exactly what he did?
I have in my files testimonies from people that were there and saw the healings. And matter of fact, they said that some of the greatest healings took place not under Dr. Lake's hands, but under Charles Westwood and Brother Fogwill, the other ministers that were there. Dr. Lake had at one time 16 ministers that he taught and trained to do this, and they had every bit as powerful healings as Dr. Lake did. Fogwill once went in the bottom of a hospital in the morgue where they kept the bodies, and there was a young baby there, and took the baby and held her in his lap until she came alive. Well, there was no record of Dr. Lake doing that kind of thing. There were the dead raised under Dr. Lake's ministry, but not like that. So the requirement was when they came in that they had to attend for 30 days. And now most of them would continue to attend even after that for years. And the longer they stayed, the more
Because
they
it was
heard.
revolving.
Right. And they always taught the same thing over and over again, but each time it would differ a little bit. So the manual we have is what he taught at one particular period. Now, it changed over a period of time. Matter of fact, even some of the lecture titles that we have are the same titles that you'll see in different books. But the actual and the gist of the message may even be very similar, but there are differences in it, and tend to be more instruction in what this is.
Let me ask you a question. Give me some teaching nuggets that you gleaned from John G. Lake.
Okay. First off, I would say that one thing that Dr. Lake said was that he can act himself into believing faster than he can believe himself into acting. That is probably the number one primary nugget that I use and that I've walked in.
What does that mean? Act yourself into believing.
Well, see, we keep thinking that if we study enough, read enough, pray enough, we will get full to a point where we will act without thinking about it. It'll just happen. It will just hatch out, is the way T.L. Osborne says it. That's not true. It's already been proven. If that was true, with all the teaching and the confessing and everything that we've done over the last 20 years, there'd be no sick people left in America. But that's not true. The fact is, you can do all that, and you can build up strong faith and do everything else, but until you step out on your own free will and exercise your faith in God, nothing will happen. But once you decide to step out, just like you decide to get born again, there is not enough devils in hell that can stop it from happening. God will not override your will. He wants you to use your will for His glory.
And we've been taught to be passive and let the paid professional do it.
Right.
And give them money to do it. But let the paid professional do it. That's not for me. I'm a layman. In fact, this whole idea of layman and professional clergy, that's all Greco-Roman culture, not biblical Jewish culture.
That's right. Yeah, Jesus did not make any distinction. The only distinction He ever came to was in Ephesians, when He talked about the fivefold ministry. Every other thing He ever promised was to the believer.
Tell me more about what you learned from John G. Lake.
Well, one of the things was that Dr. Lake operated under the Great Commission. He did not sit and wait for a special leading. He believed the Great Commission. He would spend time in prayer, and then he would go about and complete the Great Commission. He didn't wait. He didn't wait for any type of special leading, special guidance. Now, those things come. But until you're doing the general will of God, God's not going to give you specific direction to do the specific will of God. You have to be involved and be active in doing it. Some of the other things is that he got fed up with sickness and disease. That's probably the primary one thing that mattered the most. Half of his family died because of sickness and disease. He was one of 16 children, and 8 of them had already died by the time he came into a healing ministry and started watching what was going on. And at one point he said, when his sister was dying, that his spirit would not let her go. There was something inside of him that said, no, enough is enough. This is it. It's just like when you get born again, you say, that's it. I'm giving my life to Christ. That is it. No more sin. I'm getting away from it. You do the same thing with sickness and disease, and you start to attack it. You can't be passive. You can't just say, okay, I'm through with it, and I don't want it to come on me. You have to attack it. Because it is an enemy, and it has to be destroyed. We don't wait. We seek it out. We search out the enemy, and we destroy his works. Jesus went about destroying the works of the enemy. That's what we do.
What do you really see as, let's call it the fallacy in Word of Faith teaching? There's a great deal of truth. I subscribe to it.
Yeah, majority
but what do you think the fallacy is?
Well, the majority of it is true, and it gives us a good foundation, and without it, we couldn't step to this next level. We couldn't do it. The two main fallacies, and we deal with these a lot in the course, as a matter of fact, the two main fallacies, one is the idea that a person has to have a rhema word from God before they can do anything or before they can be healed or anything else. That is just not true. Scripturally speaking, I'm no Greek scholar, but all the scholars do say that there is literally no difference between the Greek word rhema and the Greek word logos. If you look in James 1:22, it says, "Be ye therefore doers of the word, and not hearers only, thereby deceiving yourselves." Now, that word for word, be ye therefore doers of the word. If the Rhema doctrine was true, then that word for word there should be Rhema, because that's what we would have to do, is the Rhema. But it's the word Logos, which is, we know that the written word, the complete word, the general concept, the idea of what God had in mind. So that what we are to be doers of is not a Rhema. We're not to wait for Rhema. We're to be doers of the word. We're going to be judged according to how well we live by the standard, which is the word of God, not by the standard of some arbitrary standard of, well, God never told me this, so I'm not responsible for it.
What's the second fallacy?
The second fallacy is putting faith in our own faith. Our faith is not to be in our own faith. That's why people get discouraged and they get beat down and they lose. Our faith is to be in God. And faith is not this big thing, this monstrous thing. It is just trusting God. It's just like a friend. You know what He says is true, so you act on it. It's not something that you have to build up. Put your faith in God, not in your own faith, because your faith will fail. It is faith in God that works.
Thank you, Curry. Our time is up this week. But Mishpocha, how would you have liked to have been in that classroom that John G. Lake was conducting on healing? It was in the early 1900s. Lake had over 100,000 verified healing miracles in Spokane, Washington. And so he would conduct this seminar, and his students, in order to graduate, they were given the name of someone they didn't know. They would go to that person's house because the person was sick, and they were instructed, do not come back to the class until the person is healed. And they all came back. I mean, how would you have liked to have been in that class? I sure wish I was in that class. But the closest thing to it is Curry Blake was given, I believe supernaturally, the manuscripts from this class, and he's put together one audio cassette, which we've called John G. Lake's Divine Healing Secrets. We're making it available, $10 postage paid. This is the Shabbat broadcast, and I want to bless you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord cause His countenance to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord grant you His shalom, His supernatural completeness in your spirit and in your soul and in your body. In the name of the Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace, Yeshua HaMashiach Tzidkenu, Jesus the Messiah, our righteousness.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom.
If you would like to receive a complimentary copy of our bi-monthly teaching newsletter, cassette catalog, or information about becoming Mishpocha, write to me, Sid Roth, Post Office Box 1918, Brunswick, Georgia 31521. Or call our order-only line, 1-800-548-1918. To place a credit card order, call anytime, 1-800-548-1918. For all other calls, the number is 912-265-2500. That's 912-265-2500. For a cassette tape of this week's broadcast, send $5 to Sid Roth, Post Office Box 1918, Brunswick, Georgia 31521. Look us up on the web, www.sidroth.org. That's www.sidroth.org.